Hello everybody all at once, this is Theo Cedar-Jones, and I wanted to tell you what kind of rock star I am. Because since the old moral, social, and political order of the world is now dead, and this is showing all its signs in the downfall of the deep state Illuminati cabal that's unfolding in real time right now, there's going to come a time when a lot of the famous rock stars and bands are going to be exposed either for their direct involvement in satanic pedophilia amongst elites in the entertainment industry, or their silence while knowing about it and knowing that it's happening amongst their peers and colleagues. Therefore, they're guilty of tacit consent. So that rot, that guilt in the rock music industry is going to be fully revealed. How deep it goes is yet to be seen. And I'm going to address a few of the guilty parties that I have enough data and evidence to support my claims that U2 and Pearl Jam are examples of the kind of Illuminati-based entertainment that's going to be discredited and obsolete in the near future. And therefore there's going to be a clamor and a call for people to generate a society where rock and roll is not satanic and not controlled by the Illuminati. And rock and roll, like every other sector of society, is going to have to go through a process of self-purification, regeneration, transformation. And I am the one who is leading that. I'm the one who knows where rock is going in the future. I am rock's future. And one aspect of that future is that classical musical values are going to be restored. There's been a constant corrosive, reductive force acting on rock music to dumb it down and to take away its essential components that give it its integrity. And the popularity of hip-hop music, country music, electronic dance music, all point to the fact that popular tastes have been conditioned into a dumbing down. And that means that most popular music is deficient in basic structural value. For example, there's been a reduction in vocal melody, a reduction in original riffs, a reduction in original chord sequences, and a reduction in great lyrics that are meaningful and relevant, and a reduction in key changes within song structures, a reduction in dynamics within song structures, and virtually everything has been reduced in terms of structure within music, so that electronic dance music just has a very same or similar beat throughout the entire song. Hip-hop and rap has a very same or similar beat. Most pop music has a same or similar beat throughout the entire song. There's not a human drummer. There's not human musicians. Less and less are there human musicians that know how to play in a band, and are containers or vessels for the classical music values of harmony, melody, key changes, rhythmic changes, good lyrics, and catchy riffs, and catchy hooks. All those things are classical music values that I will uphold, and I do uphold in the quality of my music. So that's one thing you can find in all the Swaybone albums, as I've always endeavored to find and have been successful in finding good musicians, good musicianship, good songwriting, and that has to be a standard within rock music. And the Global Union of Radical Musicians, the Global Guild of Rock, has to uphold the highest standards of musicality, because rock music is the ultimate and most comprehensive artistic and musical form of expression that exists, because it includes all other art forms, and it does what things like jazz and classical can't do. And I've made justifications at length for rock music in particular, and and I'll do so again. Classical music does not have a hard backbeat. Classical music doesn't have musicians who can play and sing at the same time. Classical music doesn't have musicians who know how to play without reading from a chart. Classical music doesn't have musicians who know how to stand up and dance while they play. Jazz music has lame singers who are glib and insincere and have never made a mark on the public imagination since Billie Holiday. Jazz singers are irrelevant. Jazz singers never play and sing an instrument at the same time. So they're not unlocking parts of their brain that only get unlocked creatively when you sing, perform, and play an instrument at the same time. Same in classical music, I just mentioned that. So there's all kinds of basic cognitive and structural deficiencies with jazz and classical that are not the case in rock. Rock solves all the extant limitations and problems of jazz and classical music. And all the reductive and limited qualities of blues are exploded in rock. So rock is the ultimate ideal, endless, unlimited, perfect art form that includes all the other art forms within it. So part of what makes me the rock star that I am is that I defend rock and roll in principle as a way of life, as a system of values, and I'm here to help restore the great values of rock and roll. So, just to explain what kind of rock star I am, specifically the classical music values that I represent are exemplified by the fact that I'm able to jam and play leads at a level equivalent to Jerry Garcia and Frank Zappa. And I basically am a container or a vessel for a certain ability or vibration connected to Frank Zappa and Jerry Garcia, and I can just do what they do. And jamming in a hard rock context, like the Meat Puppets and like Frank Zappa, is a unique thing that I have always been able to do in Swaybone. And so jamming is one of the unique things you can look for in Swaybone. And the other is a great exalted belting type singing, like Bono and Freddie Mercury. I wanted to take that tradition of belting into the future of rock, and I think that's part of restoring rock musical values, is the fact that belting is a relatively new development in singing, starting with Judy Garland, in a context outside of Broadway musicals and opera, where they do belt, but in a very limited stylistic fashion. But Judy Garland broke that wide open, and I basically am the type of singer that's emotionally and physically doing a similar thing as Judy Garland and Barbra Streisand and Lane Staley and Bono, which is exalted projection or belting. And my contribution in that department is to do it in a special way that I've developed, that is to sing from above the head without strain while invoking Adi-Da. And you can see the results of this since my recordings from 2007 onward, with the album Bones You Can Trust, and the album after that, Life on Earth, and the album after that, Dissolver, that I've confidently established this unique singing ability that has probably the biggest, most powerful projection of any living singer today. And all the other classical musical values I'm trying to uphold are Alice in Chains, and the grunge era, personified primarily by Nirvana and Alice in Chains. Those are the two bands, along with Soundgarden, that had the biggest influence on me, and a little bit of Stone Temple Pilots and almost every other good band at that time musically influenced me, and I'm what I call a sacred grunge artist in a sacred grunge band. And one of the things you can expect from Swaybone and me is that I'm trying to restore the sacred within rock music. And that's why I sing about Adi Da, my relationship, my devotional relationship to Adi Da as my guru. That keeps all of my lyrics since 2001 virtually are about Adi Da, about the devotional relationship to him, and about the effect that had on my inquiry into the ego. So, as the Illuminati falls, as the Illuminati-controlled music industry is revealed for the corrupt cesspool of evil that it is, a lot of people are just not going to want to listen to their favorite bands anymore, even if they love the music, because the lyrics and what the story behind that band is, in terms of their either direct involvement in satanic pedophilia or their tacit consent to activities that they knew about amongst their peers and colleagues. That rot is going to be totally revealed, and the people are going to want to know who they can trust. Where is the rock band that is not tainted, not corrupted? Well, it's me. Right now, Swaybone is the only rock band that you can be certain is not egoic, is not in any way involved with the Illuminati or Satanism, and has always had an explicit orientation towards God, truth, light, and the liberation of every human being from the bondage of personal ego and ego culture at large. So I've always had a very radical message of positive enlightenment, liberation for all humans, and now a vision of the Global Cooperative Forum, where there's actually a means and a method to actualize human collective will, human prior unity as a reality in the present moment. So if you're looking for the rock band that's going to lead the way in terms of not being evil, tainted by Satanism, the Illuminati, or the corrupt music industry, Swaybone is the shining light. And other bands will come following after us. But right now we are it. We're the only one. And I'm the only artist in rock music who is singing about Adi Da publicly, is singing about the ultimate message of divine self-realization, is singing a critique of the ego in a very explicit way, a comprehensive, substantial way. That as people wake up around the world and reject this Illuminati corrupted music industry, and sadly are not going to be able to listen to so much music. I can't listen to Tom Petty anymore. I can't listen to Pearl Jam anymore. I can listen to maybe one or two or three or a few handful of U2 songs now. The rest of them makes me want to vomit in despair and just horror that Eddie Vedder hears the voice of Satanist Damien Eccles on his shoulder, and that Bono, the frontman of U2, is hustling toxic vaccines to kids in Africa and supporting the false flag AIDS hoax by, lining the pockets of big pharma profiteers who are selling AIDS drugs in Africa, when the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and big pharma are the ones who invented the AIDS plague and SARS. But Bono dressed up as a devil on stage and led you to believe that he was going to give you the truth about who the devil is, but he misdirected you. The devil is his masters, his controllers, not the fake misdirection he was indicating with his theatrical devil persona. Bono was signaling, like the Illuminati always does, that he really is devilish, he really is demonic. He is serving the worst demonic masters and handlers. So people, you're going to need non-satanic rock band. You're going to need a non-egoic rock band. You're going to need a rock band that has not been I've been so shut out and blacklisted from the rock music industry. No one who's ever known about me in the music industry has ever given me a break, ever given me a leg up or a chance of any kind. So I never got the chance to be tainted and corrupted, and I never would have been had I been given the chance. I never would have signed any blood oath to any bullshit secret societies, ever, and I never have. So we're going to need a form of rock and roll that's not corrupted by Freemasonic Satanism and phony pseudo-Christian Satanism in the form of U2. And so not only is Swaybone bringing back just the physical aspects of classical music values, all the things you would expect from harmonies, vocal harmonies, catchy riffs, great leads and jams, dynamics, and overall classic, memorable, timeless songwriting. Those are non-negotiable. Those are a must. All future generations, and when the global union of rock radical musicians has to uphold those values that the best rock bands and the 1,000 best rock and roll songs of all time demonstrate. In addition to that, we need to introduce new values within rock that replace the old conventional, consumerist, materialistic, satanic, Illuminati corrupted ideals that basically, since they killed John Lennon and Bob Marley and Kurt Cobain, that stream of uncompromising truth within rock music has been dulled, diminished, or destroyed. I'm here to bring it back. Not just bring it back, but take it further than it ever was before. And take the vision of John Lennon, Bob Marley, and Kurt Cobain, and bring in the God-man Adi-Da, Samraj, and divine self-realization, and the global cooperative forum, and the ultimate divine liberation of every human being, all beings everywhere throughout the cosmic domain. Swaybone is the greatest rock band in the world of its generation. It is only band that is bringing forth both classical music values and a new egoless vision. So what kind of rock star I am is that I can't be satisfied with the existing rock and roll infrastructure and system that's been put in place by the Illuminati so far. As I've said in other video blogs, everything is stacked against rock bands in this society. At the beginning, you are forced to play in clubs where there's alcohol for sale, and you can't play for youth audiences because they don't let people in under age 21. So alcohol toxicity and age segregation are built into the failure of rock at the grassroots. And then for the rare band that gets through that gauntlet of wage slavery and alcohol toxicity to somehow build a fan base and get noticed by the higher echelon of the music industry, then you're required to compromise your humanity, become to greater and greater degrees implicated in secret society corruption and evil just to advance in your music career. No one escapes this. Everyone is tainted by this implication in the music industry. They either know about it or they're doing it. So you can't advance in the music industry without being an evil arch enemy of the human race. It's so awful. And that darkness has just been evident to me in 30 years I've been struggling to get a leg up in the music industry. Is it just an aura of evil from the bottom to the top? And I love rock music, and I love entertainment. And like Frank Zappa, my primary goal in life was just to be a good entertainer. Like, I had to do that. I'm an artist and an entertainer. It's just what I am. In addition to that, I'm a barefoot missionary for Adi Das Amraj and Prior Unity. But I can't function in the rock industry with its current infrastructure. I can't tolerate the alcohol. I can't tolerate the ageism and the age segregation. And the need to travel in vehicles, cars, in dangerous freeways, and just reckless, lawless, destructive, toxic transit systems, diesel buses and stinky cars. It's why I'm getting involved in setting up all ages rock tours all throughout America on the Amtrak line, so that all ages bands, young bands, any bands can get to their shows without a car, or they could just use Lyft, or we'll set up a new independent electronic infrastructure. Elon Musk built a semi-truck that's electric. We can build a tour coach that's electric, Elon, please, that is suitable and dignified for bands. And we need our global union to proactively support every new band as a public resource in commons. Bands are a public resource that have to be supported actively. Just the way we put all these infrastructural supports in place to sell gas, or to have kids learn math in an educational factory, or to provide any form of infrastructure in the world requires subsidies, government support, all kinds of public support for that infrastructure. So I'm advocating full public support for rock and roll infrastructure, so that every band doesn't have to reinvent the wheel of how to be self-promoting, how to get gigs. They just sign up to the union, and the union gets them gigs whenever and as much as they want. They don't have to worry about promotion, because every city has its own nonprofit live show review magazine. So there's constantly buzz and discussion about what bands are coming through town, what local bands are playing, what is their reputation, how good was the last show that you saw. Nightlife and live bands and music are covered in a weekly periodical format that is exclusively dedicated to reviewing live music and plugging and promoting future shows. It's just a live rock music magazine. It's published once a week. There's never been anything like that. Live reviews have always been a secondary afterthought in things like Band Magazine or anywhere else. All the local papers don't do this. We need dedicated press, weekly press, exalted, dignified, high-quality publications dedicated to reviewing and promoting future shows for live rock bands. This is vital, essential. And every city must have per capita resources dedicated to sufficient numbers of all ages clubs and venues, sufficient numbers of non-profit record labels, sufficient numbers of non-profit, cooperatively owned radio stations, with a sufficient amount of cooperatively based, non-profit, publicly funded rock clubs for all ages use, record labels that are non-profit, that are dedicated to maximizing the success of every band in that region, and local radio stations that are not profit-driven and not controlled by the government's limitations, but are about regional exposure of rock bands. Not for profit, as a community interest, as a resource in commons. So ultimately, it's the firm that gives me my context of sacredness and direction in this rock and roll enterprise. I told you that I'm singing about Adi-Da. I'm singing about divine self-liberation, realization for all humans. I'm talking about the restoration of inherent sovereignty of humans, both individually and collectively. But I'm really doing this as an extension of the FIRM, the Free Union of Renunciate Messengers. Because it's by standing with Adi-Da Samraj and Santosha Tantra and other renunciates and other awakened beings within the FIRM that my band Swaybone has its proper context, has its proper basis. I'm here to extend the interests, the values, and the sheer living presence of Adi-Da Samraj and Santosha Tantra within the context of the FIRM, the Free Union of Renunciate Messengers. And so that's the kind of rock star I am. I'm giving you an egoless, classically virtuous form of rock music that will help sustain you and inspire you and heal you as the old moral, social, and political order of mankind falls apart.